Thursdays live with Chugh. My name is Neha.Mahajan, and I'm the Business Development and Outreach Manager at Chugh LLP, Attorneys and CPA. Welcome. You know, the world of immigration is always changing, especially in the United States of America. It has been changing rapidly over the last couple of years at the very least. So today on the show, we're going to talk about one of the not so breaking news, but this is a welcome news for L2 and H4 visa holders. What is that news? I'm going to tell you in just a bit. We will be talking about OCI and renunciation. Now, you might be familiar with these words, but what does it actually mean? What do you have to do for an OCI? What is renunciation? And do you have to carry your renunciation card? And there's going to be just so much that we're going to be talking about all of this. This is live from our Edison office. My name is Neha.Mahajan, and I'm joined by Zoe.Mirza, who's an immigration lead with our Atlanta office, and she's been with our firm for 12 long years. And I'm also joined by Balween.Kaur from our Cerritos office, our LA office, which is our headquarters. And Balween is also an immigration lead. She's been with the firm for 10 long years. Welcome, ladies.
Hi, Neha. Thanks for the introduction. Thank you, Neha.
Yeah. So, L2 and H4 visa holders were in for a treat this week. You know why? Because there was a court case, there was a lawsuit, and the lawsuit was won in the favor of L2 and H4 visa holders. There's a settlement that has changed the way L2 visa holders and H4 visa holders can work or apply for or renew their work authorization. Balween, I'm going to start with you on that. This is a welcome news within the L2 and H4 community, of course. What do you see? USCIS came up with guidelines. What are those guidelines? What is this news? Why don't you tell me more about it?
So quickly, Neha, thank you. This is only information purposes. It's not a legal advice. But Neha, what happened is the H4 who have an employment authorization based on the I-140 approved of the H-1B guys can get their EADs, the employment authorization renewed, automatic renewal. So that they don't have to wait for 12 to 13 months before the EAD can be renewed. The processing times are so bad. That's why people lose their jobs and everything. So, and of course the L2s, they don't even have to file EADs anymore. So they will be authorized to work as long as they have a valid L2 approvals. And of course the L2 is based on the L1 approvals. They're both dependent visas. So what that means is they both H1B and the L1 guys have to have their statuses, valid statuses for their spouses to work on H4 based on I-140 approved. And then L2, that's they get the automatic EAD.
Yeah. So, but for this, H4 visa holders must have their I-94 approved, right? Their visas must be renewed before the automatic extension can work for the EAD, right?
That is correct. Yes. And then the automatic renewal will only happen if the I-94 or the approval is valid for at least 180 days for the H4 guys. Yeah. Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
Which we all know where it's going. Like USCIS has been taking, as you mentioned, 12 to 14 months, in some cases, almost 17 months to renew these visas. So I don't know how this new settlement and new guidelines are actually helping it for visa holders, but congratulations.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good step. I think it's going to help a lot because sort of EAD's employment authorizations are like in layman terms, we call it as green cards because there's no prevailing wages, there's no minimum requirements. So it's like the spouses are free to work wherever they want. And then if they get an automatic renewal, I think that's awesome. That's very good.
It is definitely welcome news. Thank you, Balween. As of 2020, there are 6 million OCI holders worldwide. And guess what? 44% of OCI holders are actually, or actually they renounced their Indian citizenship. So they are of Indian origin. And rest 33% are from Australia and Canada, those people who've moved into Australia and Canada, it's a very hard choice for people like us who left our birth country to be in different countries, to kind of renounce the Indian citizenship and apply for an OCI and renunciation. But what is OCI? How does one apply for it? That's something that we're going to delve into today, with Balween.Kaur from our Sedito's office, LA office, and Zoe.Mirza. We'll talk about renunciation from our Atlanta office. So Balween, just so that the audience has a clear idea, what exactly is OCI?
So that's a jump, Neha, from H4, L2 that we are on, US citizens getting OCI. So that's fun. But OCI's Overseas Citizenship of India is form of a permanent residency to the Indian origin people. Indian origin people, their spouses and kids. So OCI is, you don't require a special, form or anything to study or work in India. It's called, layman terms again, a lifelong visa. You don't have to renew visas. You don't have to renew OCI. You can stay there indefinitely. The best part is you don't have to actually go to the police authorities after 180 days to get update that you're still here. So that's one of the benefits of OCI. And then it's like, it's not a citizenship. Of course, people get confused with like, oh, so OCI, Overseas Citizenship of India, that means that we are citizens of India, or it's a dual citizenship. That is not correct. India does not give dual citizenship. It's a lifelong visa or form of a permanent residency for origin people, their spouses and kids. It does not, it's not for parents. Could be foreign spouses as well. So that's a good news. You don't really have to be born in India to get OCI. So that's what OCI is. And of course, the OCI is, people be like, okay, can we buy agricultural land? The only two things you cannot do when you have an OCI is vote, obviously, because it's not a citizen. It's a permanent residency kind of a thing. Green card holders in US don't vote. So same way, consider as a green card in India, and you cannot vote. And of course you cannot buy agricultural land. That's it. And rest you can do, you're like an Indian citizen over there staying. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Just you don't have say in Indian politics. That's what it is. Actually, you answered my second question. Because but I really want to go into a little detail about the confusion part of it. So many people are just so confused about how to even apply for an OCI. The VFS website sadly is very confusing. People have a lot of questions about it. And just for the audience sake, I would like to mention that we are live right now. So if you have any questions for us, just send it to us in the comment section. You're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Send us your questions. And if you are watching us a recorded version of this discussion today, our email is info@chugh.com. You could send us your questions and we'd be more than happy to assist you. So Balween, coming back to the question that I was asking you about OCI and the confusion that people have, what are some of the common questions that people come and ask you?
Sure. I know it's confusion. That is the only, maybe I can call it, OCI has a last name called tough and confusion. Because earlier, the renunciation or the OCI wasn't like a requirement. Today also it's not a requirement. However, how the Indian government is changing towards, this is what we anticipate that in next 5 years, every Indian origin person would have an OCI. It's like a identity, and it's like, especially during COVID, they were allowed to travel. There were no, the travel ban was only for say 2 months, and then they started with the OCIs to travel. So that was big. And, our parents are in India or our families are in India. And then emergencies, if there is no travel ban on the OCI holders, it's huge. So that's why people actually want OCI at this point. So why they get confused is because the Indian consulate has an outsourced company and then they keep changing it. So I worked with over 5 companies myself. There was Trust Visa, there was BLS, there was CKGS, and now it's VFS right now. So the documents are, almost the same. The documents that they require are almost the same. However, the process changes. And then the process, when it changes, there is no reference to go back to, because the company, once the outsourced company switches to the next one, the previous one's gone, like completely gone. But the good news is that this time, when they switched to VFS, they had CKGS for a long time. Like they had like, okay, your applications are pending with CKGS. So this year was a very good transition. I was so glad that this is how it should be. And with VFS, they're really good too. Their processes are very easy to follow. They have the document checklist that's very clear. So to answer your question, there are 2 things to keep in mind. First is the online application that needs to be completed on the Indian website, Indian government website. And then that website needs to be linked to the VFS account. So that is where the confusion arises. And sometimes the document checklist, say, copy of a US passport, the document checklist will say self-attested. And then self-attested is just like signing, and then sometimes it's going to return as the application will be returned saying it's not notarized. So be very careful with, read the document checklist really carefully. And then whatever they're asking, we have to submit it. I have not seen a single case that got approved or went through if we missed a document. We cannot miss a document, basically. And then major documents are that you should be a citizen of a different country, right? You have to be, it's for people who are citizens of other than India, and that's the copy of the passport, the naturalization, copy of the birth certificate, Indian passport, proof of residence, and then of course there is birth certificates. I said for minor, I want to add, there's a recent change there. Every international document, they require to be apostilled. What that means is every birth certificate, every child who's born in US, their birth certificate needs to be apostilled. And that can take at least 3 weeks. And then the marriage certificate, and the marriage certificate, if it's issued in US or anywhere outside India, needs to be apostilled as well. So that's a layer that VFS has created, so which is good too. At least they're mentioned on the, document checklist. And then of course there's filing fees that needs to be paid to VFS. And then there's passport size pictures that needs to be sent. And I'm mixing a little adult, minor, and foreign spouse document checklist, because I know we have less time and we still have to talk about renunciation. But so with minors, what happens is most of the documents have to be notarized by both parents. That are that is one of the biggest difference. And most of their documents will be required to be apostilled, because all their documents will be issued outside India, right? And then foreign spouses also who are not of Indian origin and they're getting OCI based on their Indian origin spouses will also have a lot of notarized documents. One of the things that's really, I would not say funny, but it's good to know is that if there's a divorce and then the OCI was issued to a foreign national, who's not an Indian origin, who was issued an OCI based on the Indian origin spouse, they will have to surrender the OCI.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, that's something, and then recently we've seen their interviews. Before they issue OCI to the foreign national, the Indian consulate's actually doing an interview.
Oh, so that's not for those who were born in India. These are for foreign nationals who are applying for OCI, right?
That is correct. Foreign nationals, spouses.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Spouses, yes. There is no, one is Indian origin there is a foreign national spouse based on which they're getting their OCI.
So I'm getting confused already.
There's so much information. Sorry, Neha. I don't know how to put it in line.
Listen, thank goodness you're around, right? Thank God we're doing this today, because I'm sure there would be so many questions people would have. And if you have any questions, comment section, people, just comment there. Ask us your questions or send your questions to info@chugh.com. Now, Balween, one important thing that I feel is, without the renunciation certificate, one cannot apply for OCI. That's the first step, really, isn't it?
That is correct. You are correct. Earlier, what happened, when CKGS would do renunciation and OCI together, like a concurrent filing. But now VFS does not do that. So the very first step you have to do is surrender your Indian citizenship. That's called renunciation. So OCI can only be done once you have that certificate. That's correct.
And to talk in detail about renunciation, we have Zoe.Mirza from our Atlanta office. She is an immigration lead. Hi there, Zoe. I know you've been patiently waiting for me to ask questions.
Hi, Neha. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So Zoe, tell us about renunciation. Tell us, what does renunciation mean in brief, and who does it apply to?
So renunciation, or people also call it like a surrender certificate, that is mostly issued to applicants who want to surrender their passport as soon as they've acquired a foreign nationality. And under the Indian Citizenship Act, which was 1955, any person of Indian origin is not allowed a dual citizenship. As Balween also mentioned, that people think that OCI and if you've done your renunciation, it's a dual citizenship, but unfortunately it's not. And then as soon as you've acquired the foreign nationality, it is advisable to surrender your Indian nationality. So surrender of your renunciation applies only to applicants who are of Indian origin.
Okay. Now, what if someone who has an Indian passport but has a cancelled stamp? Will this also work as renunciation, or they really need to have a certificate?
So it goes like, if you have a stamp which says cancelled due to acquiring foreign nationality, that is required on the passport. If the passport just says, it has a stamp which just says cancelled stamp, that is not considered as a renounced of Indian citizenship. Then you need to apply for the renunciation certificate. That is mandatory.
Okay, so and to apply for renunciation certificate, I'm sure there is a fees. There's been a few changes in it, in the past. What is the fees currently?
So the fees is in you can say two steps. Like if you were naturalized before 1st June 2010, the renunciation fees is different. If you were naturalized after 1st June 2010, there's a different fees. So if you are applying with a passport and you've done your naturalization before June 1st, 2010, apparently it's $40.90. But if you've done naturalized after 2010, there's a fees of $190.90. But VFS also charges a 3.5% fees on the online payment. And normally we do the online payment, so that 3.5% fees also goes in. Otherwise, you can always pay with money order as well.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. But that's quite a jump from almost like $40 to $190.
Right,
quite a jump.
Right, now, and these fees is also changes during time as well. So maybe after 6 months, maybe the VFS increases the fees or something. So this is the fees which goes right now.
Okay, and what about processing times? I guess COVID has impacted processing times with almost every single thing. Has it impacted processing times of the renunciation certificate also?
In seldom cases, we have seen where the consulate sometimes want more documentation or something just to have a proof. then the processing time really goes up. But normally the processing time is between 6 to 7 days. That's what they say. But apparently it does go about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks or something to get the
Okay,
renunciation
that's not too
certificate.
bad. That's not too
It's not
bad.
too
But
bad, yes.
yeah, and if you want to, I would say always plan ahead. I'm a planner, always plan ahead. If you want to apply for that OCI, people apply for that renunciation certificate first off. Like that's the first step. Okay,
Right,
now
right. Because
last
if you want to
question.
travel, to India, obviously, if you've not done your renunciation, you don't have your OCI, and then you want to do everything last minute, it's going to take time. So if you want to travel sometime in December and you want everything to be done ASAP, sorry, the consulate doesn't work that way. So it's going to take time.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. One last question, really, Zoe, to you. What documents must be submitted? And I'm really scared of this, notarizing. Do we need to submit notarized documents?
Yes, Neha, there are certain documents which do need to be notarized. That sometimes utility bills. So if a parent is living with a child, obviously the utility bills are not going to be under their name. It's going to be their son, daughter, or somebody else's name. So that document does need to be notarized, and then we have to have an affidavit with the person where this person who is applying lives there. So certain documents do need to be notarized. Again, with documentation, with renunciation, is that if you're applying renunciation without a passport, so if you've lost your Indian passport and you don't have that, then obviously there are certain additional documents which we need to provide, is the police report that you've lost your passport. Obviously, you filed a police report with that. So that needs to be submitted. Then there has to be an affidavit of loss from your side, explaining that how it was lost. So those are the documents, if you're applying without a passport, is a must. Other than that, it's just all regular documents like address proof, your Indian passport, your naturalization certificate. If you've changed your name, then an affidavit of changing a name. Then if you're applying without a passport, they also have to have a proof of your nationality, that originally you were from India. So a birth copy, your election card or voter ID from India, or some document which shows a proof that you've been an Indian origin.
Thank you, Zoe. That was quite detailed. And just to remind our audience, we are live. I'm sitting here in Edison, New Jersey. I'm joined by Zoe.Mirza, our immigration lead from Atlanta, and Balween.Kaur is sitting in Cerritos, LA, our headquarters. Now, a few questions are coming in, Balween, on OCI this time. First question is from Ravindra, and he asks, I have a travel coming up to India in December. I have an OCI card that is linked to my old passport, which was lost. The OCI card is not linked to my new US passport. Will this cause any issue in entering India?
Thank you, Neha. Yeah, it's a tough one. So, of course, you don't have to renew your OCI, or you are not required to update the OCI card when you get a new US passport. However, you should carry the OCI, whatever OCI you have, even if it's with the prior passport, with your current US passport, and then try to get a copy of the last passport, of the US passport, if you have. If not, then you'll be fine, because the name and everything will match. I don't see a problem, that you don't have the old US passport and you're traveling on the new US passport with the old OCI, because OCI does not have an expiration.
Okay.
But it's always a good thing to travel with both passports. If the previous one has expired and then you were issued OCI, the previous one, you can always, so there's a change. Earlier, the US passports had an actual visa page for OCI. Now they don't. So it basically does not require you to carry the old US passport. Right now, you'll have two booklets, basically, US passport, OCI. So it doesn't matter if the OCI, if you don't have the old US passport.
Yeah. Coming to your earlier point where you mentioned OCIs do not expire, does it apply to minors as well?
So there is okay, this is another tricky question, Neha. Come on. So you do miscellaneous, you go on the VFS website, go under miscellaneous services, and then they'll ask you, okay, you're renewing, not renewing is not the right word, but whenever you have a new US passport for minors who are under 18, they have to get the OCI amended, basically, or added to the US passport. However, the news is now that VFS does not require that either. So that was, CKGS was doing that. So once you have your US passport expired and you're a minor, you have to get another OCI. And it's like the charges are barely minimum, $25 or something. But the VFS does not require that. I don't have experience myself on actually are they not renewing it because it's too new. VFS it's a recent transition. So, but I've heard that too. Neha, that we don't really have to update, even if it's for minors.
Okay, that's good news. Thanks for dodging that question, Balween.
Yeah, but I would still do that, Neha. Update the website online, like update the consulate, because for minors the picture changes.
Yeah.
Under 5 years, imagine the baby got an OCI, and right now you're 5. It's like two different individuals. So
Yeah.
I would go online, let the Indian consulate know, even if they don't issue us a new booklet, it's always advisable to update the Indian consulate.
That's some good piece of advice coming from Balween.Kaur, our immigration lead in Senato's LA office. Vidya is asking another question about OCI, Balween. Any insight into OCI card processing times and guidance on filing the application? I heard it is a nightmare. I'm torn between applying the 120-day, which is about 4 months of e-visa, versus starting my OCI application. Would appreciate any recommendation.
So Neha, again, I'm going to say I'm a little fan of the VFS because I've seen really bad processing with different the previous companies. I have seen OCI being approved myself with my own cases, basically, that we filed for our clients within 3 weeks. So that's once your every document is in place, you've done your renunciation, your documents are in place, it's within 3 weeks they've actually received the OCI. However, again, I would stick to the timeline provided by VFS. That's 5 to 6 weeks. At least 5 to 6 weeks. And then once it's approved, another 2 weeks. So I would say give or take 2 months. But yeah, it's not 4 anymore. But I do let my clients know that, just 90 days, just between you and me, I'll be like, you know what? Because we don't know how the processing works, especially with COVID, every timeline's up. It's not just VFS, it's the USCIS, every timeline processing times have gone up. However, VFS has maintained a good, processing times. It's 90 days, give or take. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And we're running into the last 5 minutes of our discussion right now, Balween. So I'm going to take this one last question. And I also want to reiterate a disclaimer that this is not legal advice. This is only for information purposes. If you have a question that you need us to, guide you or counsel you on, send us your question, info@chugh.com. That's our email ID. So Akanksha's question I'm going to take last. She says, I applied for OCI for my 3-month-old son, but have not received it. It was acknowledged at New York Embassy on October 7th, and status is still under process. My ticket is for November 17, and it cannot be changed. I am losing hope that OCI will arrive by then. We will be traveling back in February. What are my options now? She's either thinking of traveling on e-visa now, but e-visa is for 1 month only. And her second option is what happens with OCI once I have traveled out of the States. Now, what do you think?
So, Neha, this is also a very common question. So what happens is when you've submitted the OCI, we always recommend do not do tickets. Okay, don't get tickets before you have the OCI in your hand. But okay, if she has the tickets, then she can, and it's an emergency, she can travel on e-visa, no problem. The OCI is still pending. So it stays in the consulate, it's pending, no problem. However, please note that when you enter India, the immigration office over there, the port of entry officer, can see that there's an OCI pending or you filed an OCI. Somehow their system, once you scan the US passport, they know that the OCI is pending. They'll ask you, okay, what happened to the OCI? Where are you, or where's the OCI? She can easily say that, we don't have the OCI yet. It's still under processing. And then we are here for 6 weeks. The e-visa is only for 6 weeks. So they have to have a return ticket, but I would still recommend not to travel unless you have an OCI. But if it's an emergency, she can go. I don't foresee a problem either, but it's risky when it comes to kids. I don't want the port of entry officer denying an entry saying you don't have an OCI when it's pending. We've not heard, we've not seen it happen. However, it's possible.
Yeah, so it's better to be err on the side of caution, right? One last question, because I see we still have a couple minutes left. Disha, she has an issue going on with the Houston consulate, and she's asking for your help, advice here. She's asking, her situation is her son's OCI application reached VFS on October 13, but when she tried to track it using the reference number, it says they cannot detect the file. Now, what can be the reason for this, and whom to contact if this is if this continues to show?
Sure, Neha. So I would say is call or email VFS. They're pretty fast with that. They're good. They return your emails within 24 hours and with a detailed answer. So far, it's worked for me. However, if the petition, the packet, is already delivered to the VFS, that means that everything's complete. They've paid and all that, and you have FedEx confirmation. They'll be able to find it. But if you're looking for an application ID and you've not submitted until, you've not submitted the actual application to VFS, of course, there's no way they can find it. So go ahead and complete the application again. That's don't submit. If you've not submitted the packet, you've not paid, then don't look for that, because as I told you in the beginning, there are two you have to complete the application on the Indian website as well. So if that's lost, then just do it again, and it's going to be faster.
Sorry, Disha, there's no other way around this. Balween, thank you so much for answering all these questions in detail. Really, really thank you to you, and my thank you to Zoe.Mirza from our Atlanta office. Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. And the audience, if you need any kind of legal advice, any kind of legal counsel, please do not hesitate in reaching out to us, info@chugh.com. My name is Neha.Mahajan. I will see you next week. And a big shout out to Francesca, who's handling this all in the back end for us. Thank you. Have a good day.